around a 1-inch circle. In this case, start with your circle before you move your template. If my highlight is here, or my light source is here pointing this direction, what I want is right there, I want my core shadow to be opposite that. So what I like to do to make it keep me on track is I will do a weighted line with that being my dark spot, and then I will weight it upwards. As you can see, it's a bit darker here, and it weights upward. And the reason I do that is it keeps me from accidentally, when I'm turning my paper around and stuff, losing track of where I want my core shadow to be. This will be my core highlight. If you draw and you find the middle here, your core shadow and your core highlight must correspond to each other. So if my light source is there, it will go through the middle of my sphere all the way to the other side. In this case, I've done it basically a 45-degree angle for my light source. My core shadow should be equidistant right there. So this length here, length A equals length A. Same thing if I'm doing a core highlight, it should be the same length. Usually on a sphere, it will actually be crescent shaped. If the light source is crescent shaped, if it's an elongated light, it will cause a crescent shaped highlight. If it's a circular light, like a round light bulb, it'll give you a circular highlight. So this is a round floodlight where it's a one central light shining light over a whole area. If it has multiples like that, has two highlights, that's two light bulbs in different locations, slightly offset to each other. They're both causing highlights. For us, we just do one because we have a single light source. So again, I'm gonna start the sphere over. We're gonna start, lightly draw that, darker right where my core shadow is gonna be, weighted line. Just putting that weighted line already implies that my highlight is over here. This is exactly like your other one. Again, I don't care if you do weighted lines or you do this or you do circles. This time I'm gonna do it this way, and I'm gonna aim for this being my core highlight. Very lightly building this up. I am positive half of you found this really difficult. Mm-hmm. It seems like it should be easy, but it's very difficult to not be too heavy-handed and to get it really smooth. It is hard to tell that I even put any tone down right there. That's the level you want to go. Very slow, don't overdo it, don't put much down at once. You're better off to add more over and over. This is why learning drawing online sucks. Online, I don't have a camera good enough to show you that little amount of transition that I just put there. I don't have an $8,000 camera for this. I have an iPad. So again, it's exactly what you did on the first one with the offset. The main difference on this one is your core shadow. Easiest thing to do is insert your core shadow right there, about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters off the edge, depending on the size of your sphere, and then do a little weighted line. It follows the edge of the sphere. It's come up a little bit, but now every time I go over this, even though this is an HB, not my 2B, I will darken that just a little bit. Go slowly, keep it subtle, don't try to rush it. Now, what is true here, where I just said every time I go over this, I will add a bit of tone there, is also true here and all of these spots. So that's one of the reasons why I usually do You'll see me, I'll do this very gently because it's a circular object until I start to head over here. And just build up your tone slowly. Don't rush it. You're not. As soon as you add tone, getting rid of it is really difficult. I can no longer change that core shadow because I did it so dark. I don't want to, thankfully. However, you can only take tone off with your kneadable eraser or otherwise when you've put it on really lightly. So for example, I'm going to try to take that initial circle out that I put there. It's still there. I can still see it. I'd like to not see it. I would have not put it in there if I wasn't doing a sample. Once you have gotten your basics in there, then you can start going in. Right here, this is where I'll switch to a 2H or 4H. I'm not going to be able to get that extra harder because this is a softer pencil. Same thing back here. And you'll notice that I checked. Before I put my pencil down, make sure that's my 2B. If it was a 4B or a 6B or 2H, 2H probably wouldn't affect anything because I draw lightly, but you do have to pay attention to that and be careful. Now, because I want to give it more form, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start giving it some more depth of tone. Slowly work my way around until eventually I have now, if you're finding you can't add more color in here, like more tone, it's usually because I filled the tooth. I spent so much energy in this zone with those lighter colored pencils, lighter toned pencils, that I can't add more tone on top of it. Now, I know that's not really the case. I can go in. Now I'm starting to add a bit more depth to it. So this is exactly the same as your first one, your first project sphere. You're still heading up here. If I take this off, the top of this, just for you squinting, unless you need glasses like I do, that means I don't have enough transition right here. It's just not quite dark enough right here. And if I darken this, I need to transition it as well. I just don't want my whole sphere to fade away. Now I probably should switch to a 2B at this point, or an HP, sorry. I'm already using my 2B. So the only difference between this and that first project is this core shadow. Essentially, and don't screw around like that. Essentially, it's the same thing, just add your core shadow, transition it out. You want to transition it this way, and that way, because it's spherical, okay? So this is basically repracticing the first one. Your cube. Easiest thing to do is just use a square template. Make a square, like so. Decide on an angle, usually around a 45. Go from each of these corners. Try to make these first two parallel and these parallel. You could measure them if you need to. What I'm doing is I'm actually looking through here to make sure that this line is parallel to that line. And now that I have that cross piece, I'm making sure that this line here is parallel to this line. So that's basically it. Now, this is a sort of a rough idea. Remember, the pencils are different tones basically, right? If I want this one to be dark, this is going to be my 2B, mostly. This is going to be my 2H, mostly. And this is going to be my HB. So if I think about those, this one here is away from the light, so the light is hitting the cube here. This is mostly away from the light. It's not going to catch much of it. Now we go forward left, so this corner might actually get a little bit of light. So with my 2B, I always do this one first. And the reason for doing this one first is if I slip into it from this side, it doesn't matter. If I do this one after this side and I slide into that, it does matter. So again, I'm going to go from this corner here and work my way down. As I get to this edge, and because I don't want to screw this up too much this time, I'm going to use a shield. So there's a thing called an eraser shield. There's also a thing called the pencil shield. And all I'm doing is positioning this so that I can't go past this line right there. Now it's going to be slightly lighter right there, and then transition up, and that's just my reflected light. And then to get the rest of that edge, what I want to avoid is this little bit of depth. Now, I went from dark at the top going down to light. I'm going to do the reverse this time because this is my dark side here. And I have to try to get this to work. Right now you can still see there's some transitions in there. That line right there, can everybody see that line going through there? That's a transition problem. It's really noticeable when you get those in there. Is it horrible? The average person isn't going to look at it. They're not really going to notice it. I'm going to take a mark out off for that. You want to try to avoid that if you can. In here, if I was marking this project, right along here, there's a transition line. There's one right here. There's another line right here. Try not to change your pencil change the angle of your pencil too much. You don't want those crisp lines in there. This guy here, we're going to go from this corner and work our way upward. If there's no tone, we have to be careful that it doesn't look like it's empty or hollow. And you can see now I can slide over there and it doesn't really matter much. We transition up towards that corner, switch to our 2H. We do almost the same thing. And we come from this corner. If you're wondering where your flat is, you can go over there. If you need to make a flat, you can do that. And the flat is just to make it easier. There is not much tone on the top. It's just a slight transition from here over to that other corner. Because the light is hitting right here. It's catching this corner for the most part. Now, your cylinder. Find an oval. Here's one. This time we'll use this one. Be aware, these are often tapered. You want to make sure that you have the correct taper. Again, I'm going to go dark right here and then transition. I'm going to draw a line up here and a line right here. If I join this line at the middle here to that line and I choose something around there. I just arbitrary. Don't make it too stubby, don't make it too tall. Then join your edge to that line, from that tip to this line. That's my cone. Obviously, I'm going to clear that off. Now, core shadow goes along this edge, just off the edge. Core highlight is just off of this edge because the light is hitting here. This is a wedge-shaped shadow, core shadow. So it actually, because this is so much bigger than the top, as it comes down here, it becomes a little bit of a wedge. Same thing with the core highlight. As it hits to the tip, there's less space. It ends up being a wedge shaped. So again, this is straight along this edge, so this whole thing must be straight. Slight bit of reflected light along this edge here. And you just work your way around. Try not to do that little goob there. Before I get too carried away, just clean that up. And then you just work your way around. And again, everything is, so the reason I'm going straight up and down, I'm trying to follow this curve, is because this side is straight. And you just work your way around. I'm gonna rush it a bit just to speed things up until I get to my core highlight, which will be somewhere around there. Because of this curvature right here, I need another transition. And then I deepen all of this up like I did over here. You're not doing the torus and you're not doing the pyramid because they have very little value and we don't have time for them, unfortunately.
So we're just doing regular cylinder.
You're doing
cube,
four, yeah, you're doing
sphere, and
these four here.
Okay.
The four that are on the other sheet. But don't use the other sheet as a reference, use this one.
Okay.
So your cylinder, again, similar to your cone, start with that, draw a line, straight up and down, very lightly, and then take that same one, move it up, and then join this side here. Make sure they're aligned properly, not like this. They're misaligned. You're gonna be very careful, use these lines. This is your core shadow right here, kind of like it was here. This is your core highlight right there. And you're gonna go across, and I'm just gonna do this all in an HB. You're gonna put your core shadow just off the side. This becomes ambient or reflected light here. And then you work your way across. And I am rushing it. And it gets lighter towards here. Because there's a curve here and a curve here, this gets a transition all of that direction. And then this transitions to the core highlight. This side, because it's away from the light, is actually darker. I hear you, me too. And then it just works its way over from this side. And again, make sure that you deepen it enough to get it looking good. All of these little lines, avoid those if you can. On your top, it is, you need something, otherwise it looks hollow. Very lightly. This, when it hits the top, will actually be on a bit of an angle like that. Very subtle. Start at this corner and work your way over towards this corner, and that's it. Should not be this dark. If you do it that dark, just go in with your needle eraser, pull some of that tone out. You just don't want that top to totally disappear. So there's only 4 shapes. It's pretty basic because they're basic shapes. Don't do these 2.
Can we do them for fun?
You can do them for fun. You will be doing this in the next project.
Ooh,
Yeah,
oh boy.
Can I take a
Yeah.
picture of this sheet?
sure.
I can share this.
Oh, actually, yeah.